What if I told you that your extinction won't come from war, disease, or climate collapse, but from your own thumbs? That what's slowly erasing your mind isn't out there, but right in your pocket. Sounds dramatic, right? But Aldous Huxley saw this coming decades ago. A world where pleasure, not pain, would destroy us. Where distraction, not dictatorship, would turn us into slaves. Social media isn't just wasting your time, it's rewiring your brain, hijacking your emotions, and reshaping your very identity. Every swipe, every like, every scroll is changing you. Quietly. Invisibly. And the scariest part? You're choosing it. Every single day. In this video, we'll expose the uncomfortable truth behind your favorite platforms, how they manipulate your dopamine, shorten your attention span, and drain your sense of meaning. But we won't stop there. You'll also discover how to fight back, how to retrain your mind, reclaim your focus, and escape the invisible trap you didn't even know you were in. Stick with me until the end, because once you understand what's really happening, you'll never look at your phone the same way again. Imagine a world where people aren't oppressed by pain, but by pleasure. Not by force, but by distraction. That was Aldous Huxley's vision in Brave New World. He warned us about a society that wouldn't need censorship, because no one would care to read. A society where we'd drown in information, stimulation, and endless comfort, until we stopped questioning anything. Now look around. Does that sound familiar? We used to fear Big Brother. We thought the danger would come from surveillance, from being watched, from tyranny. But Huxley saw a deeper danger, that we'd willingly give up our minds in exchange for constant stimulation. No boots stomping on faces, just infinite scrolls, seductive notifications, and curated validation. And the scariest part? It's not imposed. It's chosen. Freely. Willingly. Often joyfully. Today, people spend more time with their screens than with their families. Children grow up swiping before they speak. Teens chase dopamine like junkies. And adults? We're not much better. This isn't just a tech problem, it's a philosophical one. It's about meaning, distraction, and what we sacrifice when comfort becomes our highest value. Huxley predicted a world where we'd stop asking, why, because we'd be too entertained to care. Sound familiar? You see, extinction doesn't always arrive with fire and blood. Sometimes, it comes with a smile, a filter, and 1,000 likes. What Huxley warned wasn't loud, it was subtle. Not violent, but seductive. And social media has become the perfect vehicle for that seduction. But how exactly does it hijack your mind, right down to your brain chemistry? Let's talk brain chemistry, not in a boring, academic way, but in a real, visceral sense. Every time you get a like, a comment, or a new follower, your brain releases a tiny burst of dopamine, the same chemical involved in addiction, love, and gambling. But here's the catch, your brain was never designed for this frequency of reward. It's like trying to drink from a fire hose. Eventually, you're not refreshed, you're drowning. Back in the day, dopamine was a survival tool. Find food. Dopamine. Make fire. Dopamine. Get accepted by your tribe. More dopamine. These were occasional hits, earned through effort. But now, you can trigger it hundreds of times a day without moving an inch. Just open your phone. This is the trap, we're hacking ancient instincts with modern tech, and it's working. Too well. The problem is, your brain adapts. The more you flood it with cheap rewards, the less it responds. That's why scrolling feels more empty over time. Why you need more likes to feel the same high. Why long-form content, deep conversation, or even silence feels unbearable. Social media doesn't just reward you, it trains you. It teaches your brain to crave novelty, speed, validation. And it punishes boredom like it's a disease. But boredom isn't your enemy, it's your gateway to depth. And that gateway is being slammed shut. So the question becomes, if our minds are being reprogrammed to crave dopamine hits, what happens to the parts of us that used to chase meaning, purpose, and patience? Here's a hard truth: if you're not paying for the product, you are the product. You've probably heard that before, but let's go deeper. On social media, you're not the user, the advertisers are. You're the raw material being shaped, tracked, optimized, and sold. Your attention is extracted like oil, refined through data, and auctioned off to the highest bidder. That's not paranoia, that's business. Algorithms don't care about your values, your goals, or your well-being. They care about engagement. That means controversy, outrage, envy, anything that keeps you scrolling. They learn what triggers you, what scares you, what excites you. And then they feed it back to you in tighter and tighter loops. Not because it's true. Not because it's good. But because it works. You're not just a user, you're an input. A test subject. A product on the shelf. This doesn't just change what you see, it changes who you become. The algorithm rewards short tempers, superficiality, and extreme opinions. Nuance doesn't trend. Depth doesn't go viral. The more predictable you are, the easier you are to manipulate. So we conform. Slowly. Subtly. Not because someone told us to, but because the system rewards it. You start crafting yourself not for truth, but for reach. And here's the twist: the more you chase what the algorithm wants, the more you lose what made you human in the first place. Your uniqueness. Your creativity. Your quiet thoughts. So what happens when a generation of minds is shaped not by mentors, but by machine learning incentives? Boredom used to be a gateway. A signal from your brain that it was time to think, to create, to explore something deeper. Some of the world's greatest ideas were born in the silence of boredom, Einstein daydreaming at a desk, or Newton sitting under a tree. But today, the moment boredom knocks, we reach for a screen. And just like that, the moment, the possibility, vanishes. We've trained ourselves to be allergic to stillness. Waiting in line. Check your phone. Commercial break. Open TikTok. Even walking down the street, we need noise in our ears. It's not just habit, it's rewiring. When you eliminate boredom, you eliminate the conditions that allow real thinking to happen. You might be entertained 24/7, but you're also stuck in a loop of surface-level stimulation. It's like eating candy for every meal, sweet at first, but soon you feel sick, weak, and empty. Here's the danger: boredom is where imagination lives. It's where you connect the dots, process emotions, ask the hard questions. But if your brain never sits still, it never has to wrestle with discomfort. No discomfort means no growth. And over time, you lose the capacity to engage with the parts of life that aren't instantly rewarding, like reading a book, having a hard conversation, or reflecting on who you're becoming. When boredom dies, your inner world shrinks. And that's exactly what these platforms prefer: a mind too busy to reflect, too distracted to resist. So if we're killing boredom, what else are we quietly killing along with it? Deep thinking requires time, focus, and silence, 3 things social media is designed to destroy. Every swipe, every ping, every algorithmic suggestion interrupts your mental flow. And over time, your brain adapts. You start craving stimulation over contemplation. Instead of thinking through a problem, you Google it. Instead of wrestling with an idea, you scroll past it. The result? A mind that can consume endlessly but struggles to process deeply. This isn't just theory, it's neuroscience. Studies show that heavy social media use shrinks gray matter in areas responsible for focus and decision-making. Your attention span literally erodes. You get used to thinking in fragments, in memes, in one-liners. Complex thoughts start to feel like chores. And if you're honest, you've probably felt it, that twitch to check your phone, even when you're in the middle of something important. But here's the real tragedy: deep thinking is what makes you, you. It's how you define values, form beliefs, understand your emotions. Without it, you're just reacting. Bouncing from one headline to another. Adopting opinions you didn't really choose. Living a life that's more reflex than reflection. And when you lose the capacity for depth, you lose the ability to resist manipulation. Shallow minds are easy to program. We're not just forgetting how to think, we're outsourcing it. Letting platforms feed us what to care about, what to fear, what to believe. And that leads to a bigger question: if our minds are being emptied, what's being put in their place? It's not just opinion anymore, the numbers are in, and they're disturbing. Facebook's own internal research revealed that Instagram makes body image issues worse for 1 in 3 teenage girls. Think about that. The company knew its product was harming young minds, and still did nothing. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Anxiety, depression, and loneliness have all skyrocketed in the digital age. Coincidence? Not likely. What we're seeing is a generation raised on comparison. Every scroll reminds you of what you're not pretty enough, not successful enough, not happy enough. But what you're comparing yourself to isn't even real. It's filtered, curated, often fake. And your brain doesn't care, it still reacts. It still releases cortisol. It still spirals into self-doubt. We've built a system that feeds off our insecurity, and then sells us the solution in ads. And it's not just teens. Adults are burning out too. The constant flood of notifications, news, outrage, and opinions creates a kind of emotional exhaustion. You start waking up tired. Going to bed wired. Feeling more disconnected even though you're more connected than ever. It's like a mental fog that never lifts, until you unplug. And then suddenly, everything feels quieter. More real. But here's the most frightening part: many people don't even realize it's happening. The decline is so gradual, so normalized, that we accept it as the new baseline. But if this is the baseline, what happens when the next generation starts from here? Evolution has always rewarded adaptability. The species that survive are the ones that learn, evolve, and respond to challenges. But what if the challenge now is comfort itself? What if we've created a world so convenient, so frictionless, that it's quietly undermining the very traits that made us human: curiosity, resilience, patience, and depth? Think about it. We no longer need to remember things, we Google them. We don't sit with uncertainty, we refresh the feed. We don't wrestle with boredom, we distract ourselves. Our ancestors had to endure, solve, and adapt. We tap, swipe, and scroll. And every time we choose the easy path, we reinforce neural pathways that tell the brain, hard is bad, comfort is good. Over time, this rewires not just our habits, but our instincts. And that's dangerous, because evolution doesn't pause. If the traits that lead to survival are no longer being used, they begin to atrophy. Critical thinking, emotional regulation, even physical stamina, all become optional in a world designed to cater to every impulse. But nature doesn't care about convenience. It cares about strength. And we may be voluntarily breeding it out of ourselves. So here's the unsettling thought: maybe extinction doesn't look like a war or a virus. Maybe it looks like total comfort, total distraction, and total loss of what once made us adaptable. But is the damage permanent? Or is there still time to reverse it? Here's the good news: your brain isn't fixed. It's not doomed. Thanks to neuroplasticity, it can change, reshape itself, even after years of bad habits. Every thought you repeat, every action you choose, every distraction you resist, they all carve new neural pathways. You're not a prisoner of algorithms. You're just out of practice. And the first step to reclaiming your mind is remembering you can. Start small. Turn off notifications. Schedule phone-free hours. Read something longer than a tweet. Let yourself get bored on purpose. These moments of resistance send a signal to your brain, we're taking back control. At first, it's uncomfortable, even painful. But discomfort is where growth begins. You'll start noticing thoughts you haven't had in a while. You'll feel space open up in your head. Space for reflection, creativity, clarity. Neuroplasticity is proof that you're not broken, just distracted. You can retrain your focus. Rebuild your attention span. Reclaim your ability to think deeply. But it requires discipline. And that's a word we rarely hear online. Platforms thrive on impulsivity. Resistance, on the other hand, requires intention. And intention is like a muscle, the more you use it, the stronger it gets. This isn't about becoming anti-tech. It's about becoming pro-mind. About using technology instead of letting it use you. Because if your brain can be rewired, for better or worse, then the real question is, what are you rewiring it for? Breaking free doesn't mean abandoning technology, it means redefining your relationship with it. You don't need to go live in the woods. But you do need to pause and ask, who's in control here, me, or the machine? Because the default setting of our world is distraction. And if you don't actively resist it, you will be absorbed by it. Freedom, today, isn't about escaping chains. It's about reclaiming your attention. Start by reclaiming your mornings. Don't reach for your phone the second you wake up. Give your brain space to breathe before the flood hits. Practice single tasking, yes, just one thing at a time. Sounds simple? Try it. It's harder than it seems. But every time you do, you're retraining your mind to choose depth over dopamine. To create rather than consume. To lead, rather than follow. You'll notice a shift. Conversations get richer. Ideas come more easily. You start feeling present again, like you're inhabiting your own life instead of just reacting to it. And slowly, the noise dies down. You become less programmable. Less anxious. Less addicted. Not because the world changed, but because you did. That's power. And it's available to anyone willing to take the first step. But here's the final truth, the longer you wait, the harder it gets. Every day, the algorithms get smarter. The distractions get louder. The habits grow deeper. So ask yourself, are you going to scroll into extinction, or fight your way back to consciousness? You've seen it now, the silent war on your mind. The dopamine traps, the shrinking attention, the engineered outrage. But here's the truth, awareness is power. You're not helpless. You're not broken. Your brain is plastic, your habits are reversible, and your mind is still yours, if you choose to reclaim it. Don't wait for a crisis to wake you up. Don't let your life be a blur of scrolls, swipes, and shallow satisfaction. Start small, one moment of stillness, one digital boundary, one choice to disconnect and think. You're not just escaping noise, you're rebuilding something deeper, your clarity, your focus, your soul. And ask yourself honestly, who are you becoming under the influence of this machine? Is that the person you want to be? Or is it time to remember who you were before the algorithm got involved? That moment of reflection, that spark of rebellion, might just be your way out. If this message struck a nerve, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Reflect on it. And subscribe to this channel so we can keep creating videos that challenge the noise and speak to what really matters. The system wants your attention. We want your awakening.